Hello and welcome. I'm Dr. Zachary Renfro, and today we're doing something a little bit different. One of my favorite YouTube channels, Jrose11, is hosting an event where he's asked fans of his channel to submit their version of a Pokemon challenge run, and that's what I'm trying today. What you're seeing here is going to be the more or less unedited footage of my playthrough. I will probably cut some parts out just, to make it easier. And I'm going to have it divided into chapters. There will be a quote unquote published style video, but this is going to be the raw footage, which is something that he has requested. Now, one thing I want to say with this is that it's a pretty exciting run, but even though I have been playing Pokemon for my whole life, I haven't ever done a proper challenge run, so this will be something new. So we do have, I've got auto fire turned on my controller. That way, when it comes to these long dialogue parts, I can just hold down the button instead of having to type it. And let's put in our name. So while we're doing this start of the game stuff, one thing I really want to say is just a small bit of thanks to J Rose. I've been watching his channel for about 9 years. I first started watching him when he had the top 10 videos going. And, I think about all the things that have changed in my life from then to now. I went from being in the military, going to college, having and losing so many jobs, and finishing a doctorate degree and becoming an adjunct professor, teaching at a high school, right? So much stuff. I was a mailman at some point. And at every stage, J Rose has been consistently uploading videos. He is one of the few things that I could really count on in life. And I know that sounds really corny to say, but his videos have basically been a long, ongoing series that I've been able to watch and really just make my life a little bit better no matter what was going on. I mean, there have been times I've been late for meetings and family events because I was sitting at home watching a J Rose video. Now, you'll see what I'm doing here is I'm checking the stats. I'm picking out a Clefable, trying to find the right one. And, we'll see. Eventually, I'll get the right one. But I did just want to add that little bit of thanks to J Rose because he really did, he really has made a difference, even if it's just a small difference in my own life. So we've just about got our right Clefable. And as we go through, there's going to be a lot of parts where I'm going to be talking and then parts where it will just be silent. So keep that in mind. Now, if you are planning on watching this from beginning to end, just know that at the very end, there will be a lot more of my studio dialogue as I'm going through the Elite Four battle. But like I said, there's going to be some chunks where it's going to be relatively silent, and you may want to skip over those. I know in these playthroughs that J Rose typically will try to get as many potions as he can. That way he's not having to hit the Pokemon centers. But in these early stages where we don't have a lot of PP, I think honestly it almost makes more sense to just focus on trying to get some levels. That way our double slap and our um, metronome will do more damage because without that, we're going to be just really, really stuck grinding. And, we don't want that. So now that brought us to level 6, and you'll see why I did that. It'll seem a bit weird, but what I'm going to do is when I get to Rival 1A, I am going to fight Rival 1A. And the reason I'm going to fight Rival 1A is that way I can get some early levels and just be a little bit better prepared for Brock and the trainers that come after Brock. Now, once we hit Mount Moon, We can get Water Gun. We can get Mega Punch. But up until then, we're going to be kind of in on the struggle bus because we will start running out of PP very fast. So that's what we're going to try and avoid. Okay, we're going to come over here and going to save state. Maybe even just do a quick save because we're going to be resetting a bunch here, but it's going to be worth it. The thing we have to avoid though is we've got to avoid a turn one sand attack. So let's see if we can do that. Okay, do another minimize, and that should be enough. Now we're going to do metronome, rock throw, miss, guillotine, miss, recover. Okay, rolling kick, not very effective. High jump kick, and now we're going to go for double slap. We're up to level 7. Now we're going to try metronome, waterfall, pound, bite. Now we're going to finish with double slap, level 8. All right. And you might be thinking, well, this seems a bit unnecessary, but I've tried playing through this early part of the game a couple of times, and what I found is that once you get past Brock, you lose a ton of time with those 4 or 5 trainers that you have to battle. That they just eat up your time because you're still just running out of PP so fast. Now, gonna avoid that guy, avoid that guy, avoid that guy, take the antidote. Metapod, we don't want to waste our time with that. Potion. All right, we're going to save state here. Not wasting our time with Pikachu. And we have another bug catcher. Going to minimize. Now this guy, he can be very annoying if he gets you with Poison Sting and gets you poisoned. So just try and take care of him quickly. Now we're level 8. And you can beat Brock like this. So you can beat Brock right here as we are. But we're going to do the Light Years Trainer. Again, just getting some of those extra levels. And how easy or hard this is will depend our uh, on our metronome luck. All right. So we beat the Light Years Trainer. Now that brings us to 30 minutes coming to Brock. We're going to save. Now this could have been done faster. I'm going to use one of the potions right here. And now we're going to try and deal with Brock without going back to the Pokemon Center. Let's see how it goes. So first thing we're going to do, minimize, and then metronome. Ice Punch, that is perfect. Now we're level 11. We're going to do metronome. Ember, not very effective. Substitute, all right. And now we're just going to minimize, minimize. All right. Substitute took the damage. Now we're going to metronome, Mega Drain. All right. We beat him. That brings us to level 12. All right. So that was really a best case scenario. And you might be thinking that, perhaps I oversold how tough some of these things can be, but we did get very good metronome luck there. When I did this kind of practice start a few times before, I ran into some real headaches. So, gonna grab 4 of those, gonna grab a potion, and I know we can get an escape rope, but we'll grab an extra one. And now we're ready. We're going to do a proper save, going to do a save state, and now let's try this out. Now, during this process of making my way through the routes, things would be going very good, and I would just be having a lot of really, really great luck until I accidentally reset the game. And that set my progress back a huge amount and created a real, real headache. Crap, push the wrong button. Well, let's see how far back that sets us. Not too far back, but definitely a hassle. Minimize, metronome, acid, perfect. Double slap, perfect. Metronome, fissure, metronome, low kick, metronome, quick attack. Test, test. All right, we'll do minimize. The metronome. Oh, that was useless. That was useless. Double slap. Double slap. Okay. All right, we made it to Mount Moon. All right, now we're going to properly save. Let's see if we can do it with metronome. All right, we're going to do a proper save here. All right, Zubat, minimize, metronome, perfect. Ekans, metronome, Psywave, double slap, perfect. Grab the ether, grab the TM. All right, let's see. Rattata, minimize, double slap, metronome, Double slap. Okay, well, let's reload. Well, there's our Paris. We need to catch one of them. So we'll do a quick save and Pokeball it. Nope. Minimize. Ether. TMO1. All right, and now we are going to replace Metronome and Double Slap, which have been two moves that, you know, are just playing a lottery. Nothing really of note else happened while in Mount Moon, but I did end up taking the Helix fossil. All praise Lord Helix as we continue this journey through Mount Moon. As I entered Cerulean, I did take on the rival. I grabbed the rare candy and I made an effort to start Nugget Bridge before having to stop midway through and deciding to fight Misty. After beating Misty, the path to Bill's house and the remaining trainers was largely uneventful. I made it up there, no major mistakes or errors, and was able to move on to the next part, which was the SSN. While aboard the SSN, I did forget to grab the Body Slam TM, but I did get the rare candy, so a little bit of give and take right there. I grabbed the bike voucher, but forgot to actually get the bike later on. You'll see me later in the video going back to get it. Additionally, whenever it came time to do the trash can puzzle at the gym, I was completely lost and it ate up a huge chunk of time, roughly 5 or 6 real minutes trying to figure out the trash can puzzle. So, fun times. My eventual battle with Lieutenant Surge was fairly uneventful. I was a bit over leveled and was able to take him out with just a few mega punches. And then when I got to Rock Tunnel, it was a bit more challenging. Usually, when I play casually, I get the Flash TM and I make my way through with Flash. I'm not used to really navigating it in the dark, so I spent a lot of time just bumping into walls and smacking into things. But the good news is, I did eventually face the hiker with two Geodude and a Graveler and took him out pretty easily. That clip's getting ready to start. Here we've got the hiker with two Geodude and a Graveler, Whitgag, as he's often called. But I've still got water guns, so he'll be very easy to take out. Now, after I beat Whitgag and I made it to Lavender Town, I spent a significant amount of time just completely confused, trying to figure out what might be the appropriate route. Uh, and because of that, there's several minutes of footage that are just me, sitting and staring at a map and trying to figure out the best way to go. So I have cut those out for posterity's sake. And when we continue with the recording, we will find ourselves getting ready to fight Giovanni. Giovanni 1 and Rival 4 were both very easy. There's nothing really significant that happened. I took out his rock Pokemon with Water Gun and his Kangaskhan with Mega Punch. And then for the Rival, I alternated between Water Guns and Mega Punches and took him out pretty easy. Clefable's minimized just makes a lot of these fights very easy. And then you add on top of that, I'm a bit over leveled for this point in the game. Now, after spending way too much time in Lavender Tower, getting lost and getting turned around, I finally make it up to the top, which might not sound like a significant achievement, but considering how much trouble it had given me, I felt pretty happy to actually face the Marowak and defeat the Rockets at the top and be done. The next part of my journey is what I call the fumbling around bit. And this is where my inexperience as a Pokemon player really comes home to roost. I spent probably 15 minutes going around. I had to go back and get the Thunderbolt TM. I had to go get the bike. I had to buy all my vitamins, get the beverages to give to the guards, get the beverages to give to the girls so I could get the Ice Beam TM. And then finally, I was actually able to make it into Silphco and start there. Now, as I'd said before, where I was over leveled, Silphco actually wasn't too bad, and Rival Fival was relatively easy. Giovanni 2 was also really easy, which is kind of an unexpected thing considering how poorly I'm doing at some of the other parts, particularly the routing. But I guess that's the real benefit of being over leveled this far in. Next, when it came to Sabrina, I was able to take her out on the first try, no real problems there. I had Mega Punch and was able to just really quickly knock out her Pokemon and just move on to the next step, which for me, the next logical step after Sabrina was, of course, Erica. I didn't want to do a full J Rose where I forget to fight Erica until it's time to go fight Giovanni. So I decided to take her on early. And at this point, we are so over leveled that Erica is just an absolute breeze. We're able to fly through her Pokemon, ice beaming them with the TM we got from the girl on top of the Celadon department store. And then we move on to Koga. Now, Koga took me a couple tries. Partly because of bad poison luck and explosion luck. So when it came time to do Koga, I really was just trying to do the best I can. I was minimizing, I was using my different special and physical moves, but I was able to eventually take him out. Um, and I was pretty happy with the results of that. Next, I spent way too much time faffing about in the Savari zone, and then after that, the burned mansion on Cinnabar. This took a huge amount of time just because I wasn't really familiar with like the routing, and I was just doing the best I could, which finally took me to Blaine. Now, Blaine ended up taking a couple of attempts. He got a burn in on me pretty early, which caused my attack to drop and caused me to have trouble. But on my second attempt, I was able to freeze his Arcanine and really just take him out and move on to the final step, which is Giovanni. So we get to Giovanni, and he ends up being nothing really to worry about. We were able to get through him very easily on the first time. We do a few minimizes, then we basically ice beam the rest. The minimizes probably weren't even really necessary, but is good for safety. And, I always thought that for a lot of Pokemon, Giovanni seems to be just kind of a wet fart. He's just over so fast and not really pleasing to go through, not really challenging. So we get to Rival 6, and he doesn't end up being much trouble either. We are over leveled. We've got minimized, so we're able to take advantage of the badge boost glitch and Mega Punch and Thunderbolt down his remaining Pokemon. Did take us a little bit with that with Alakazam, but is no problem. We get to Victory Road, and let me tell you, no matter how many times I go through Victory Road, I still find myself getting lost, getting stuck. And that's what you see I'm doing there. I'm having to stop, looking at maps, and just try my best not to make an absolute fool of myself. And even though I try to do minimum battles going through, as you can see here, at several points, I end up getting in accidental battles just because my pathing isn't very good and I didn't want to have to reset out, which finally we're able to make it out, and then we're able to actually get into the Elite Four. And now we're at the Elite Four, and we start off with the one, the only Lorelei. Dugong, not too much trouble. Cloyster, we're going to set up a couple minimizes because I don't really think there's a whole lot Cloyster can do to us. We're getting that badge boost glitch. We're thunderbolting when we can. And now we get to Jinx. We're just going to Mega Punch it down, and then finally Lapras. Lapras is really bulky, takes a lot of time, and we're just going to keep trying to work through it as Lorelei tries to potion, and that's Lorelei down. So now we're moving on to Bruno. Like we ended up forgetting stuff we needed, so I go back to an earlier save, and we have to faff about with our items for a little bit. So at 7 hours 56 minutes, we're back at Lorelei again, trying our best. We got our elixirs and got a couple of extra TMs out just in case we need them. And hopefully, we're going to be able to make it through the Elite Four this time. The real challenge is because even though I could, try and save state and things like that through the Elite Four, I'm wanting to try and do the J Rose method, right? Where I'm going through and I'm fighting the Elite Four all at once, no items in battle, none of that. Um, so now we get to Bruno, and we do have to watch out. He's got some super effective fighting moves. We're a normal type. Would hate for him to take us down, but it doesn't look like today he's going to be that much of a threat. We're ice beaming, we're minimizing, we're thunderbolting, and we're just going through mega punching when we can and just knocking his Pokemon out one after the other. Machamp does stand a little bit of a threat, but we take him out very easily, which brings us to Agatha. Full restore, and now we're ready to go. And hopefully, her ghost won't show us any kind of problem. First Gengar, it puts us to sleep. It's eating our dreams. This isn't good. We've still got rare candies and stuff. Maybe we should have used them. Let's see what happens. Golbat, we start Thunderbolt and it's paralyzed. Haunter, we minimize, and we're going to Ice Beam, Thunderbolt. Ooh, there we go. We took him out. Arbok, we Mega Punch again, and we're on to the last Gengar. We get confused. We're hurting ourselves in confusion. Thunderbolt, we just got to make it through. Ice Beam, and we've beaten Agatha. Woo, that's stressful. I tell you, Agatha every time is tough. It's the Agatha lottery. You never know what's going to happen. And now we start using our rare candies. We're prepping for this final bout against Lance, and then we're going to save one to get us ready right before we go to the champion. Now, I don't predict Lance being too much trouble. We've got Ice Beam, we've got Thunderbolt, we've got Minimize, and Mega Punch. Um, and of course, we are a bit over leveled at level 6, 7. 6, 7, and we take out Dragonair, Dragonite, Aerodactyl, easy. Now we're going on to the champion. We're using our rare candy, takes us up to level 69. Nice. And now we're ready. Will the champion be able to present a real challenge? It's going to be tough. Let's see what happens. All right, so we're a bit over leveled for the champions, so he's not going to be much of a threat. We're going to start off with a couple minimizes. He's going to sky attack. We'll take the damage. Thunderbolt, he's gone. We're taking the badge boost glitch. We're going to punch down Alexam. Ice Beam right on. Arcanine, we're going to minimize again. And Ice Beam him down. Executor, we're going to Ice Beam him down. And now we level up. We're losing our badge boost glitch, but we're still over leveled. We Thunderbolt down. Blastoise. All right. That was something. So we had my live reaction there. I wasn't really sure what to say as my first time doing something like this. And now let's go back to live me. 8 hours, 29 minutes, about 2.5 hours real time. If you've made it to the end, thanks so much for watching. It was my first time doing something like this. Made a lot of mistakes. Maybe I'll do something like this again. Thank you so much. You have a wonderful day.